Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFonya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 86, Rope Burns. Today's mood music is Obey by Dwele.
The song and the name, it just like sounds sexy.
Oh, babe. I can't say more than that because we need our monies.
For real. Like they be out here trying to get you
Okay.
with them copyrights.
So, as y'all know, y'all been loving this month's topics. And we gonna keep on with the theme, with the keeping on with the theme.
I know we have some people out there that are especially excited for this one.
Yes. Yes.
Including me.
Yes. I think we all are.
Yes, of course I am.
So before we tell y'all, what it's going to be about, I want to ask the question first so that we can just jump on in.
Okay.
So my question is, what is the most common safe word used by kinky couples?
Well, had we not talked about this before, I would have said something different.
Well, say what you would have said.
So I had 3 different things in my head.
Okay.
I had pineapples, bananas, and then the other one was butterflies. I know those all, don't all go together, but
Okay.
Yeah, and mine would have been, are we talking about Black people or Caucasians? Because Black people just be like, stop, get off me. Like, because sometimes we don't be trained.
it's the face.
Yes.
That's the safe word.
Yes.
You see my eyes? Move.
Okay.
But I would say the old school red, green, that sort of thing. Because when you really do for real play, you don't say stop or go, because some people like to have consensual non-consent. So,
Mm-hmm.
So the answer based on my research was banana is the most common word. And what we mean by common word is that when you remember last week we talked about consent, and we're going to talk in more depth about a lot of these things, but we talked about consent last time. And when you are engaged in kinky sex, there needs to be some conversation, and there needs to be some safe words and some safety involved in everything. And so one of the safety words that is commonly used is banana, and then the second one was pineapple, and then our movie, hers was red.
So as y'all can see, we be out here because we already know what the words are.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's start it.
So if y'all don't mind, I wanted to start off with giving them definitions of the difference between kinky and fetish, because they're similar, but there's like one main difference. So as I said, they're both similar, but fetish is when you have to have this particular thing in order for you to get going. Kinks is when you want it to spice up sexy time.
Or anything, actually. Because kink can go into your regular life. It doesn't have to do it with sex. So,
Yes.
And I think before we hop into it, I think also something to be mindful of that I know Dr. Strickland wants to talk about is paraphilia, which that gets onto the DSM side of things and kind of deep dives into that. So, Dr. Strickland, you want to give them a little taste of that?
Yes. So a paraphilia, let me actually get the definition for that. Hold on, let me get to my research. So a paraphilia definitionally is a condition or characterized by abnormal sexual desires, typically involving extreme or dangerous activities. So the DSM, which is what we use to diagnose people, has 8 main categories of paraphilias, and that includes exhibitionism, or what people would socially call flashers, people that like to show themselves. You have frauderism, which is touching or rubbing against a non-consenting person.
All of these are non-consenting.
Yes. You have people that like to engage with younger, underaged people. There is a word for that, but we will get flagged for using that particular word. So people that are attracted to prepubescent individuals. You have sadism and masochism. So I think most people know what those two things are. And you have transvestic disorder, which I
think it's on its way out.
Yeah, I do too.
It, certain people run the DSM that aren't very culturally aware. So that's one of the last ones that's kind of still left in there.
And then you have voyeurism, which socially a lot of people call this the peeping Tom, but this is watching or observing other people in sexual acts. Non-consensually. Most of these are non-consensual.
Yeah, that's the difference. With paraphilia in the DSM, it has to be non-consensual, because some of these things we'll later talk about. If they are consensual, then they are a part of your kink or your fetish.
And the other person is it has to cause psychological distress. And if it doesn't, then it would not meet the criteria for being a diagnosis.
So, because one of these is my area of expertise in therapy, I'm saying this because some people who choose younger aged or non-consenting children or adolescents, they tend to say that they wanted it or they gave me permission. They are not old enough to give permission. So even if you do so-called have consent from a child or adolescent, they're unable to give you that consent.
Yeah. Many states have ages of consent. In the state of Texas, it is 17. Some states are younger, like 15. But there is an age of consent that most states have.
Yeah.
So one thing that I did want to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, Dr. Wall, about paraphilias and just how the DSM and how sometimes, if it is consensual, it is not a diagnosable thing.
Yeah.
So when I was reading things, one of the things that they were talking about a lot was that kink has been kind of co-opted medically, and a lot of times the medical community and the social constructs can't keep up with one another.
Yeah.
And that we've turned things that people are often interested in into a problem.
Yes.
And created an issue with people when one did not necessarily need to be created. So part of the research being done now is whether or not they even need to include any type of paraphilia in the next version of the DSM or not, because you're taking something like sadism, masochism, and it was in these 3 in particular: sadism, masochism, and transvestic. Those in particular, most people that engage in those behaviors are engaging in them consensually and without psychological distress.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's an unfortunate thing because when we're growing up and going through that developmental period and trying to figure out who we are, what we're interested in, especially maybe that 11-ish plus, and you start to develop these ideas about sex, what you're interested in, what you like, what you don't like. And I know for some people that's going to be shocking to hear that children as young as 11 or a slight bit younger they're not thinking of it in the way an adult thinks of it, but they are considering what their body is experiencing.
Yeah.
I was even shocked that it was that young. They were saying how children get, they don't, of course they don't know what it means, but they get those desires or those kinks because they like playing like cops and robbers. And so they like to be handcuffed. They like to get caught so they can get handcuffed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it even goes down to what villains you like in your hero stories and how that plays out, into, your adulthood and things of that nature. Everything you ingest becomes part of you, and you have to really determine, okay, is this something that's healthy for me or is it unhealthy for me?
And they were speaking to that in that, when you're young and you're trying to figure that stuff out, and because we have put so much societal pressure on people and shamed so many things, and we talked a little bit about this last time, so much has been shamed that if you are into some version of kink, that you have to hide in the shadows. And one of the things I was reading, they were saying that people that are into the kink community have a lot more shame than people that are involved in the LGBTQ plus community, even though they still have their own version of issues and oppression. So I don't want to disregard that. But even deeper, people that are involved in the kink community have even more because of the nature of the things that they could potentially be aroused by.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so just to dive a little bit deeper into, that definition of kink, kink is going to be anything that veers away from what is normally subscribed to in your sensual experiences, how you live your life, how you are intimate with people. It is what is not considered vanilla. We'll get more into that word later, but it is the sensual experiences. Remember, we talked about that previously. That's everything that you do. All 5 senses included, the experience of living. And then with your fetish, that's going to be directly linked to your sexual experiences. And they can be one and of the same, because some of these kinks can transfer into sexual lanes, but fetishes cannot. They don't go back the other way. Kind of how we were talking about the difference between a side chick and a mistress and all that kind of stuff. And, I digress. But one thing that sex therapist Dr. Aaliyah Moore said, in order for you to be able to differentiate between the two is to ask yourself these 3 questions. The first question is, am I aroused by a thing or an action? Question number 2 is, do I need it to be present to be aroused? And question number 3 is, can I enjoy solo sex without it being present? And if you answered yes to question number 2 and then no to question 3, then you have a fetish. But on the other hand, if those answers are flip-flopped, then you have a kink. So that's important. Also, and I know Dr. Strickland will deep dive into this as well, kink comes from a Dutch word meaning a twist or bend in a rope. So this is, going a totally different direction than what society, subscribes to.
Yeah, and just kind of keeping along with that. So what I found was that the kink did not actually get tied to sexuality until the 1950s.
Yeah.
It was in a book. And I should have written the book down. I just lost it. Shoot. But it was written in a book, and he talked about kink in the book, but tied kink to sexuality. But prior to that, it was a nautical term. It's gone through several changes over the last few centuries, but it originally was a nautical term that, you know, has now been recrafted to mean nasty things or naughty things.
All of the above.
Or nasty and naughty things.
Yes. I like all of them because they start with N's.
Yep.
Really?
I mean, it's my favorite letter.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I want to make sure that we have an understanding of is some of these acronyms that we're going to be talking about. The top one that a lot of people talk about is BDSM, and that stands for, the B is bondage and discipline. The D is domination and submission. The S and the M are sadism and masochism. And we'll go deeper into that later. But the other one is going to be SSC, and that is safe, sane, and consensual. As extreme as some of these different pleasuring things can be, they are all consensual. It's an illusion, people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way for me to describe it. You are giving another person permission, or you are receiving permission to do these things to the person, and there is no way a time where you are in an unsafe environment, you know, for you.
One of the interesting things is that people that are like heavily involved in the kink community often have some of the most healthiest relationships.
Yes, because they talking and communicating with each other. They really know themselves. They're extremely self-aware.
And it almost seems like they're not afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations.
No, because they know what they want to get, and they need a specific type of person to get that. And so if you have a fear of talking about those things, your needs are not going to get met.
Well, and I also think that you're allowing yourself to be uber vulnerable with someone else, because you're allowing them into your head, actually, of what you want sexually.
Absolutely.
So, were you going to talk about rack?
Oh, okay. But you can go ahead.
You go.
So the next one is the acronym that is RAC. And so that means Risk Aware Consensual Kink. And so this follows the BDSM interactions and usually is applied when partner's interest is more risky. And so it's important to be aware of what the risks are, to properly train yourself. If you get into, I'll just throw this one out here, one of the more extreme ones might be like knife play. And so you would have a very extensive training. You would know where certain parts of the body are, what may bleed more than others. Like you would have a extensive knowledge of that. And with that knowledge comes the awareness, so that you can keep everyone safe and feel protected throughout that process. Because a lot of times people who are faking the kinks, they don't know what they're doing. And that's when you end up in those situations where people are harmed or unalived.
I would say another one would be master and slave.
Yes.
Like true master
real.
and slave. Yeah. You requires a lot of training.
Yes.
And I would also say, even though this is minor, but I would still say like rope tying and stuff like that.
Oh, that's major.
Well, well, it depends. I was saying it was minor because, you know, usually it's people see it where your hands are tied above your head. But, you know, I know there can be other ways, but learning how to tie a knot.
Yes.
Safely,
yes.
And where to tie
absolutely.
it.
Yes.
Because people heavy, you know, and you put it in the wrong spot and you hang them the wrong way, it's going to be a problem, you know. Now, before we deep dive into all of the things kink and all the types kink, remember we had a whole sidebar in last session where we were talking about these different tests and things of that nature. So the first test that we talked about was found on MissJaya.com's website, and it's about the 5 erotic blueprints. And so we all took the test, and so we're gonna, you know, talk about that a little bit. And then after we do that, we're going to talk about a test that specifically goes into the BDSM world and different kinks of that nature. So who would like to go first with their erotic blueprint?
Well, I'll go first because I don't have my... So this is Dr. Jones Hines. And completely forgot to take the test until today. So I don't have my full report. So
it still hasn't come through yet?
It still it hadn't come through yet. So the only thing I know is that I'm a sensual. So that's all. I don't have my percentages or anything broken down. So I just know because the immediate report says that I'm a sensual.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So I am let me pull mine back up. I know that my immediate result was a sensual. And then from there, then go back to it. There we go. So I am a sensual, which is then followed by kink, which is then followed by being a shapeshifter, which is then followed by being an energetic. And then the last one was a sexual.
Yes. Okay, come on through. And if we ever get the rest of this information for Dr. Jones, I'll just add it to the description box. So for me, when I took the test, I got energetic as my primary. And that just means that I like to have, the energies and interchanging between me and whoever, or myself, whoever I'm with. The next one is sensual. After that, then I have shapeshifter, kinky, then sexual, which this was not anything new for me.
So I will say once I read it and received the results,
you used to be so skeptical.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that totally makes sense for who I am. But before then I was like, I don't know. Excuse me. I really had no idea how I was going to come out. I really didn't. I had no clue. But then when I read the description, because my sensual and my kinky are not terribly off from each other, but I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense for who I am as an individual.
And if y'all need a visual representation of this particular test, then just watch Love, Sex, and Goop on Netflix, because the author of this particular test is one of the guests on there. And she goes into great detail with this African-American couple and kind of breaks things down, because they were polar opposites on their test, and kind of breaks down how you do each. So it is very informative, at least her part. There were some other parts that weren't as informative, but her part was really good.
Okay.
So I really appreciated, this breakdown, because I think it helped me understand, since sensual was my top, and just reading some of the description, I was like, okay, I really am very in tune with what I feel. About food and music, because one of the things it talked about in the report was about music.
Yes.
And how, you can be really affected by music. And I am I get goosebumps, I cry, things like that. I'm really excited about the way food tastes. I'm very sensitive to, atmospheric pressure. So it was really interesting to be able to tie that back to sexuality as well, in that, okay, you really are involved in just how you experience the world through your five senses.
I think it's hilarious that all three of us, at least in our top two, is sensual. I don't know if that has something to do with us being therapists or being the type of women that we are, but it's hilarious.
It is.
Because that's not the case. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're a woman, you're going to get sensual. That's not the case in this situation.
Because clicking on them heels is kinky.
I went somewhere else, y'all. Let me come back. So the other test that we took was the BDSM quiz, and you can literally Google it. It'll be in the description box. And this particular test outlines a certain number of kinks and what percentage you are of each kink. So it's not 100% and then they divide it by all of them. It's okay, you have this one, and each one has 100%, and then you have a percentage of that 100%. So, Dr. Jones-Hein, would you like to start?
Sure. I'm 100% vanilla.
But vanilla does not mean plain.
It doesn't.
And then I'm 58% submissive. And so I'll give you my top 7 because the other ones really, their percentages are very low. 58% submissive, 49% switch, 43% experimentalist, 29% rope bunny, 29% dominant, and 25% rigor. Those are my numbers.
Okay. Dr. Strickland.
Okay. So I am 100% switch. I hate that she's laughing at that. 100% switch. I'm 80% experimentalist. I'm 77% submissive, 72% voyeur, 69% vanilla. Oddly enough, it's 69%.
Well, you're sensual, so that makes sense, though.
Yeah. 64% brat, 61% a non-monogamist, 57% dominant, and then 56% rope bunny. And then my 10th one is 49% rigor.
Okay. So for Dr. Wall, you're going to get a little bit more than 10 because mine are kind of jam-packed. So I have 100% in the category of switch, which when we say switch, that means equally dominant and submissive. So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 93% for rope bunny. That means someone who enjoys being tied up. I have 88% voyeur, which means I like to look at people. 83% rigor, which means I like to tie people up. 81% dominant, 78% submissive, which makes sense because I'm a switch. Then I have 78% brat tamer, 75% brat because sarcasm is a language. I have 58% experimentalist, 53% vanilla, 51% masochist, 44% sadist, and 35% primal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Look at those percentages.
I'm also a Scorpio, so this explains a lot.
Oh, yeah. That's why I said, let me just give my top 10 because then I have some that are like yours. The next middle set is jam-packed together. But then the ones that are like my low ones are for sure low.
What are y'all's, let's talk about that too. What are y'all's low 3?
My low 3 that all have 0%.
Or just the bottom 3?
No, that is my bottom 3.
Okay.
They all have 0. Pet, boy, girl, and age play.
Makes sense.
Mine is boy, girl, degrady, and age play.
Mine is, well, I have a tie. Sorry, y'all. I have non-monogamous and pet, then degrader and degradee.
See, like pet and non-monogamous and masochist, they're all 0. Like, and including the
you
ones.
have a lot of zeros.
Yeah, I have a lot of zeros and a lot of 1s, 2s, and 3.
See, I got like 3 zeros, and then I got a couple 3s, a couple 5s, and then it's like 19, 13, 14, 15.
Gotcha.
Like that.
I have
and
no
then it
teens.
jumps from there to like 50, 49, 50, then the high ones.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I have a brat is 13% and primal is 18%.
Which I find that hard to believe.
Whatever.
Oh, see, my primal's 34%. So primal is, just so y'all know,
Dependent, and it might be prey or hunter.
so my primal prey,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense because my sub is high.
Mm.
And my brat is high too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're catching a theme here.
Yes.
So primal, it says you're mainly focused on the natural instincts and enjoy letting their inner animal out during the sexy time. The key part is that the participants show their raw emotional feelings during play.
Mm. Yeah.
So being a sensual, this also makes sense as well.
Yeah.
So I really liked taking both of these because it made sense
Yeah.
with the 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then this, it was like, oh, that totally is
Yeah.
exactly who I am.
Exactly.
I loved it.
If y'all decide to take this, realize that there's no right or wrong. This is just a description of who you are in this moment. Make sure you're honest with yourself so that you can get more information about you. But also, if you need to get more education, you know which lanes to kind of navigate into.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it's good info to just have.
Yeah.
You know, and not necessarily go try to, once you have it, go live by like, okay, so I am so I'm a 61% non-monogamous, so now I'm going to have an open relationship. Like, no.
Right.
Don't go try to live by what your results are. You know, this is just information for you to have, just to have information.
And it would be good for your partner to take the test too. That way y'all can kind of see how you match, where you don't match,
Yes.
and how you can come to a middle ground, because y'all may not be in the same areas.
Boy.
And also, I would recommend taking your love languages with this, because it kind of goes hand in hand. So like my top 3
QT.
my top 3 are quality time, physical touch, and words of affirmation. Like they're almost tied. So that makes sense for why I would not want somebody to talk to me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to degrade me today.
See, quality time and acts of service, those are pretty much tied for me.
That's
Which
why
also,
you're a brat.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mine is quality time and physical touch.
See,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
That's-
it all makes sense. It all
Mhm.
flows together. So take these. These will be. We trust us. They will be eye opening, even if you know about sexuality, you know about kinks, because we're clinicians, so we're pretty well versed in some of this stuff.
Mhm.
But even for us, it's like, oh shoot, hold on. While I'm out here teaching other people, let me see what my joints are. And it's like, oh, okay, so I am more like this than I thought I was.
Mhm.
Yep.
But again, don't take these results and then go try to live that.
No.
Just be you.
Exactly. So, are y'all ready to dive into the kinks and fetishes, or do we have anything else we need to talk about before we dive into them?
And
there
mine-
are so many kinks, y'all.
Yeah, and mine is from a research study, so it goes through like percentage wise. And it's specific to women because there's not a lot of research about women and kinks. There's a lot of research about men and kinks. So it breaks it down in a bunch of categories: doing the activity with someone, doing the activity alone, doing the activity on someone, having it done to you, and doing it solo.
Gotcha. So let's just start with the most common one that people are talking about right now, and that is BDSM. And we talked about what the BDSM stand for, and this really is an umbrella term at this point. And underneath that umbrella, there are so many other kinks and fetishes, but just as general, this is a kink where you want to be serviced, or you want to service someone in a specific type of way. That's the general of it. And so there is a power dynamic in BDSM.
If I had to guess that most people engage in vanilla BDSM,
Yes.
they not out here
Really
so
doing the BDSM.
Even though this is not the breakdown, we're doing 50 Shades of Grey, the trilogy, but there is a movie called Nymphomaniac 1 and 2, and specifically in part 2, there is a very accurate description of what BDSM can look like.
Yeah.
If you want to see the more extreme version.
Yeah. I agree with that. Because that was almost our film, y'all, but we were like, I don't believe our audience is ready for that level of intensity, because people were actually being intimate in this film. It wasn't like fake. This was done back in the day.
Yeah.
Where no body doubles. Okay.
So, but like I was saying, I think most people engage in like very nice, sweet versions of BDSM, and not like, no, you really out here like causing cuts and bruises
And the things
of other natures.
Yeah. We're not even gonna go too far in that, because it's so many in there, so I don't want to call one out and then we gonna talk about it later. So like I said, essentially this one is just about power, dominance, submission, partners being able to service one another in some type of way. So that's the generalized explanation of BDSM. The next one, which is a part of that, is sadism and masochism. And so this falls under that umbrella term of BDSM. This is related to pain, whether you like to give it or you like to receive it. And pain doesn't necessarily mean like prisoner of war torture. Like, because I think that's where people go with
their heads go.
This is
Let me
also
waterboard you.
yeah, death. Like that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's
It's
not
like,
what we're doing.
oh, this hurts so bad, but it feels so good.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That could be spankings. That could be knowing how to properly choke someone, because there's
that's
a
a
difference.
whole-
And that is a kink and fetish, that those are in and of themselves. But
Another one that you need to learn how to do.
training.
I'm
Yes.
gonna tell y'all some people to get some training from later in this session. But clearly, once you start going into this area, you really need to make sure that you are being safe
Mm-hmm.
and that you are educated, and you're not trying to have your ego stroked,
Yeah.
because your ego is not going to have you in tune with your partner.
Well, this is the community where the idea of a safe word came from,
Yeah.
because it can go so extreme.
Yeah.
You know, we're not diving in necessarily into the most extreme versions of this, but it can. So there has to, at some point, there's a stopping point
Yeah.
before you seriously injure, physically or psychologically, the other person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you'll see a little bit of that psychological damage in the movie next
Mhm.
week. The next one is ropes and bondage, one of my faves, obviously.
Oh, rope bunny.
Yeah, and I'm a rigger. I like both. So with this one, it essentially means you like to be restrained or tied up in some type of way. This is also something that people get trained in. The term just slipped my mind, the type of tying with the knots. Let me look that up. What are y'all thoughts on ropes and bondage?
I think it can be, so one is where you have to know yourself and also understand your previous experiences, because it can be triggering for some people, that lack of mobility. If you've had any type of trauma or assault or something like that,
Yeah.
that sense of not being able to escape. So you have to really be in tune with self. Now, I did read some research where some individuals of trauma work through their trauma by engaging in this type of play, but you really do need to know yourself.
Yes.
And you really do. If you are one that has experienced trauma and you're experiencing this, or you're trying it out to see if it's a trigger or if you would enjoy this, you definitely need to expose that to your partner, because you could have a traumatic outburst and your partner will be like, oh my God, they will be then traumatized because they don't know what they just did.
Right.
So you definitely, even if you don't decide to share everything, you may want to let them know that you've experienced some sort of trauma, so that they are aware.
Yeah, and they need to know how to bring you down, literally and figuratively. So, you really have to create that safe space, and always have a pair of scissors in hand. Like, cut yourself out of it, or have them cut you out of it, because you're going to be tied up. You ain't going to be able to do nothing.
And have if it's handcuffs, have the key right next to
Multiple keys.
you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just get the
Or
expensive one with the thumbprint.
quick release. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
or use quick release. Then you
Yeah.
ain't gotta even worry about that.
Yeah. So what I was trying to remember is shibari. And so shibari would be more on the kink side of it, because remember, kink goes in all areas of life. And then Kimbaku is the one that is going to be more emotionally and sensually directed. So
Gotcha.
it's a whole art. It's a Japanese way of tying folks up.
Yeah, but I'm here for it.
Me too. I would
as
love
far
to
as,
take a class.
As far as after that stuff that we just said, I mean, I think I'm like, when you talk about it in a more like socially kind of way,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Yeah. It's especially, I will say, as somebody that is very, well, I don't know how I want to put this because it's going to sound worse than what I mean it, but somebody that has a position of authority.
Yeah.
It is to be able to not feel that, to be able to have
to be fully taken care of.
Yeah, taken care of and have that responsibility kind of have taken away, in a sense, can be freeing.
Yeah.
It's so much going on in the world right now, and we could all use some extra support. At Balance Beacon, we offer counseling services for individuals, couples, families, and groups. If you're in Texas, give us a call at 214-396-6503 or visit our website at www.balancebeacon.com for more information.
The next one on this list is hosiery or nylon, which is the interest of, wearing them or having other people wear them, the feel of them, what they look like on, as well as what the sensation of it is. And so I think that's a pretty common one, actually, from the days of when, people were stitching stockings together.
Okay. Morris Day had a whole song about it. Fishnet.
Yeah.
Fishnets.
He said them big legs
Show through them holes.
Okay. So, I mean, clearly people out here liking how things look in hosiery.
Yes.
And that's a word I have not heard in I don't know how long.
That's why I said hosiery, nylon.
I ain't heard that either.
Hose, like
I hear stockings and tights more than I hear any of them ones you just said.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Knee highs, that's an old phrase too. You know what I mean? Like all of these they are old garments,
True.
Most young people don't even know how to put these things on. We have all kind of runs in them.
Okay. So funny.
The next one, and I think pretty much all of us somehow identify with this, was voyeurism. And that is the looking upon others while they are being intimate or while they are nude.
And this is not necessarily just porn.
No. Not at all. It could be when you got out the shower,
right?
And looked at yourself. It don't have to be onto other people.
Yeah.
So in some of these, you will have to expand your thought process on what this term means, and not necessarily go with what you've heard in the media or what you've heard kind of from your friends over the years. This is expand your mind.
Yes, and remember, all of these are consensual, not the peeping Tom that is non-consensual. Also, with voyeurism, you see a lot of voyeuristic people in different clubs and different sexual experiences, because there are a huge group of people that go not to participate but to watch. So this is actually a very large group.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And so the opposite of that, we'll say, is exhibitionism. And this is being turned on by being the one that is being observed. And I know I said a lot of beings in that. That's okay.
Being by being.
Yes. Bing. And so that is, pretty much being on show. This is not my thing, because the only time I like that is when I'm dancing. You know what I'm saying? And other than that, stop looking at me. Okay.
Yeah, I think my exhibitionist was pretty low too.
Yeah, I think so. I think mine was too.
I can't remember now. Let me go back.
You making me going back?
I know. I was like, let me go back and look.
Oh yeah, my exhibitionist was 1%.
Oh, mine was 19.
Yeah, mine is pretty low. It's in the red.
So mine's in orange. So okay, it's not terribly low, but it's definitely way lower than voyeur though.
Yeah.
So I like looking.
Yeah. Why do y'all think that is for y'all individually? Why exhibitionism is lower for you? Do you feel like that's like a cultural, social thing, or?
I would say it's probably more of a body, maybe a dysmorphia kind of thing.
Okay.
On not wanting to be observed because of certain comforts and discomforts. If I had to guess for myself.
I would agree. I think if I would have taken this when I was younger, it would probably be higher because I was a dancer. So I was used to people looking at me. But now, because I've gotten out of that world, it's kind of like I'd rather kind of be in the background.
And y'all already know that's always been me. Being in the background, that ain't my thing. The next one is role play, which is extremely common.
Oh,
You
it's
know.
probably the most common.
That's why when people say
Yeah.
they're not kinky, I'm like, are you sure?
Mm.
So you just lay in the bed. That's it. You don't do nothing. So
Mhm.
role play is an extremely common one. It's where you're able to put on different personas, whether that's, buying wigs and becoming different people or meeting up at the bar and you be like, hey, mister.
Can I get your number?
Yeah. Playing like a librarian or a school teacher. I'm trying to think what the common ones
A
are.
nurse.
Nurse.
Mhm. Maid.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Those sorts of things. Pool boy, things of that
Mhm.
nature.
People would be surprised on how common it is for people to role play family.
Yep.
Mm. That is true.
That is a fetish.
Mm-hmm.
Incestualism
Mm-hmm. Or step
yeah.
parent, step child,
Mm-hmm.
or step sibling kind of thing.
It is very common. I mean, it's also very real in the real world. So
It
makes
is,
sense.
but they say, truth is stranger than fiction. So
Clearly. We're going to get off that one.
yeah.
I don't wanna go
No,
too
I'm
far
just
down
saying that, it can go, all of these can go very extreme.
Yeah, they can become very point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is dirty talk. And so this is another one that is extremely common. Talking to each other in very suggestive or explicit language during the act, before the act. For me personally, this is not my thing. I'm like, recite some poetry to me or something. Like, talk to me as if your name is Dwelle. You know what I'm saying?
It's so funny. I had just saw this video. I wish I would have cited it, but they were talking about how Black people use very aggressive dirty talk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna beat that.
It's too much.
Like we use
Who
a very
you talking to?
Right, that we use aggressive dirty talk, and I was like, after I listened to it, I was like, maybe we do.
It's very different.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Like,
So think of it like this: for all of our Christian people, Song of Solomon, that's dirty talk. That's a whole poem about intimacy.
Yeah.
That is not what be going on in these people's bedroom. Take this. You like that girl. Who are you talking to, sir? You're talking to me real reckless, and now the dominant had to come out and I had to flip you over. Like, it's what happened.
Not reckless. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to flip you so you can shut up.
Yes. But I thought that was an interesting little kind of piece. I had never, literally, that never even crossed my mind as something that people even researched. But, but when you sit back and think about some of these things, like, do we all live the same life? Because, it sounded, I was like, I can see that. We do tend to talk very aggressively, just kind of in general, but I could see how that would then translate into
trauma is real.
dirty talk.
And it's generational sometimes. So it only makes sense that it will bleed into all areas of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is urophilia, aka golden showers.
Water sports, as I've also heard it called.
Or piss play.
That too.
Yeah. Jones Hine over here is giggling.
This is just hilarious to listen to this list.
Oh boy, because y'all not gonna get the full list.
No.
The full list
we'll
is like,
link them, but we're
We
not
got-
gonna go.
it's
through all
like
of them.
200 and something long.
Yes.
But we going into the big ones.
Yeah, and this is the one that Robert is most known for because he likes to err on the side of paraphilia and then do this to his victims. But a lot of people like this. I don't know if it's the warmth or the sharing
Some people like
secretions and things like that, fluid bound and things like that. So it's a whole level. It better not be nothing on me like that unless
it was by accident.
It was by accident. So
That's it.
I'm
It better be an
not okay
accident.
with it, and I don't like the smell of it. So
Because if you ain't out here drinking your water and eating your vegetables correctly.
And if you ate some
Asparagus, oh my God.
And
anyone that's ever
or just
eaten
not
asparagus.
enough water. Like
Yeah.
if when you go to the
Strong.
restroom,
Not strong, strong.
If you go to the restroom and when you urinate, it's not pale yellow or clear,
You dehydrated.
you dehydrated. It shouldn't be no. No, thank you.
I don't care if you have drank enough water. It better not be on me.
Well, of course not. But I'm saying like
There are people that like it.
practices.
Yes,
Because there's another end of that people enjoy as well. Yeah, we're not going to get into that one.
We
But,
not.
it's another bodily function that tends to have some,
Excrements.
scat,
Mm-hmm.
as people like to call it too.
Yes. So we're gonna move on because Dr. Jones Hines about to not be okay.
She's about to engage in what another people's fetish is things that come up from the stomach out the mouth.
Yes, because that is one as well.
I know some of our poor interns are like, what?
What is
Wait a minute. There are people out there that are into that kind. Yes.
Any and everything.
If you can think of it, there's somebody on this planet that is into it.
As long as it is consensual.
True.
Yes.
It ain't got to be my thing. If it's your
It's
thing and
somebody
you got
else's.
consent, do your thing.
As
Yes.
the old folks say, if you like it, I love it.
Yes.
The next one is nipple play. And so obviously this has to do with nipples, whether they are yours, whether they are someone else's, whether it's looking at them, touching them, tasting them, all of those things. For me, this is probably not going to be something that I participate in any longer because I don't have good sensation anymore after my breast surgery from cancer. So I know this personally won't be something that I'm really probably going to get into unless, the sensation change. So
Yeah. It's whatever.
Yeah.
If you into it, I'm into it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's more for him. If that's what you like, go ahead.
And there's a lot of studies on men having more sensitive nipples than women, which makes sense because, for ours to be sometimes utilized as a way for a child to eat or something like that. So that does make sense why theirs would be more sensitive.
I've never heard that, but I can see why. I mean, they're body mapped the same way. So.
Right.
Yeah. And theirs are not used. So.
Right.
Ours are used every month, unfortunately, because good old PMS.
Yeah. So that would make sense.
Okay.
Just laying there dormant.
See, check your dude's nipples. Rub them with like a feather or a piece of soft cloth, and tell me what happened. Y'all put it in the comments.
They're gonna be like, "Hold on, y'all took a whole left turn up in here. We like it."
We told y'all
It'll be
it
all
was
right.
coming.
It'll be all right.
Literally.
She made it funny. The next one is humiliation, and this is a kink about putting your partner in their place. It doesn't have to be to their detriment, even though typically it does go to that length. It could be boot licking, different excrements being put on them. It could be a wide variety of things.
Because I was like, it could be degradation. It could be all kinds of things.
Yes, I know several people that participate in this particular one. They love it. It's no problem. I wouldn't be able to bounce back from it because I'd be like, "Now I got to fight you."
Because
Who are
like,
you talking
how did you think of that?
Yeah.
You really believe this, don't you?
I think, but like you said before, every one of these has a point of no return.
Yes, that is true.
Even if you're comfortable engaging in whatever the particular type of kink is, for each individual, there is a point where it's like, yeah, this has gone too far.
Too far. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why we have to, which we'll talk about in a moment, but that's why you have to make sure you engage in aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The next one is cuckolding. And this is an extremely common one among men, but people of any gender, participate in it, and it's being turned on by your partner initiating in some type of sexual act with someone else, either in front of you or away from you, or even if they do it by themselves and record it and then you watch it later.
I knew a person that was female that was very much into cuckolding.
Yeah.
I just like the word.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is.
I know several people, personally and professionally, that this is a extremely common one for them. This is also one of those ones that kind of goes hand in hand with threesomes and menage a trois,
Swingers,
and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is kind of an umbrella one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have female-led relationships, or commonly entitled FLRs, and this is all about the woman being on top. People that are into this particular kink are typically in a heterosexual relationship and are in the bulk of control. So this gives that woman that opportunity to take full control over that person, which that's probably why a lot of men date us. So. I'm not gonna call no names. But yes. The next one is financial domination. This also will be one that falls under the BDSM category because you are dominating their finances, and it could be as simple as, you didn't pay me my money today. You want to be a good boy? Let me stop that, because then somebody gonna be done listen to this. And
they're gonna take that little snippet, that little clip,
and
gonna
be like, Dr. Wall said money. And I'd be like, thank you. My Cash App is. No, I'm playing. So, you are in control over their finances as far as the money coming and going, putting them on a strict budget. You're not in charge of what they're making or anything like that. But, this is a huge, financial domination is a huge category.
Mm-hmm. It's not one I've run across, but I can see it. How it fits under that umbrella.
I see how it fits, but I wouldn't have thought it was a huge category.
Well, it's typically for the person being dominated, not for the
dominator.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They like to be taken control of. A lot of the people that are in this category are white men.
I was wondering if it was white male professionals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They huge. That's what I'm going to say. Now, of course, there are all ethnicities and nationalities in all of these, but it is heavily dominated by Caucasian men.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see it.
Yes. Now, this is one that Dr. Strickland might be, be
God.
into, and that's oralism. And this is having a sound kink, being turned on by hearing certain things. And I can attest to this because if y'all listen to any of our playlists, you'd be like, oh, okay. You just listen to this on your regular days. This is not even when you're trying to be sexy.
I'm in the car just driving down.
Body rolling.
Now, what's that called again?
Oralism. AURALISM.
Okay.
Oralism.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I subscribe to this wholeheartedly, and I think a lot of people do because people like mood music.
Yep.
They
so
do.
Y'all listen to today's mood music, and y'all tell me what y'all think about that one, because it has a really nice vibe to that one.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Yep.
Also, this would include ASMR. And the sounds.
Now, I'm not into it. Now, that drives my nerves.
Well, it has to be certain things. Like, I like the ASMR that's like calm, like talking, but not like weird
people like
noises.
clicking on the. I'm like, what do you? Stop
and don't smack.
Or people eating in the.
Yeah, I'm telling y'all, even with our podcast, I be editing our. I can't do all of that.
Yes. Yeah, that. I could do ASMR where if it was, soft whisper.
Yeah.
But when they're eating, clicking on the table, raking stuff across the mic.
Oh, that chalkboard.
Oh, yeah, it's just too much.
Yeah. And so this also leads into a big category of erotica, which is audio erotica. And so people making the sounds of sex and recording, it.
Yep.
I think sometimes when I hear it, like if I hear something like that, it catches me off guard, especially when I'm out in like public and I'm like, wait, what's going on right now?
Yeah, because you weren't expecting it.
Right.
Like, who is doing what to who?
Outside.
All the kinks together. The next one is age play. And this is literally you or your partner acting as a little or as a mommy or daddy. It just kind of depends on what you're into. This could be little boy, little girl, littles. I'm trying to think of what the other terms are that I commonly hear, but those are the main ones. And so you'll dress up as these particular individuals. You may even go as far as wearing diapers and being burped and fed. It can go.
I knew
far.
some individuals that were into age play and to that extreme.
Yeah.
You know, the like baby, not necessarily just a little child, but infantile.
Yeah. And people really like it. Even they may not go super, super far into the changing of the attire, but this is also an area of domination as well under the BDSM category.
It's such a huge umbrella.
It really is. It definitely is. Now I couldn't do it because if I don't like wearing pads, so
nope,
I'm not putting no more diapers on. Not till I get of age where I can no longer hold it.
Yes, yeah, this would not be. I think age play was a 0% for me.
Yeah,
it's just not.
Mine's pretty low. I don't have a problem maybe being like coy and like that kind of thing, but not all the way down to a little. You know what I'm saying? Now,
oh yeah, coy.
I can do all day.
Yeah,
all day.
but no, not where I have to like change my voice, change. You know,
I don't like when people talk to their real babies like that.
Talk to them regular.
Yes, regular. The next one is orgasm control, and this is where you dictate when someone can orgasm or how long it is, the intensity of it. You may have rounds of getting right to it and then coming back off. Like, it's a whole situation.
This also helps men with premature ejaculation.
It does. It
so
is
if
a
you
whole
engage in edging.
Yes, this falls under that.
Now that's for a different purpose, but the act is the same.
Well, both, you know, because it can be a kink and a fetish. So
yeah.
all of these, you know, have their sides, but this is actually a very common one. All of these is common, but
I was like, it's 7 billion people on the planet. They all common.
So another one is impact play, and it's a fancy name for spanking, paddling, caning.
I was like, I've not heard that.
But remember, it's consensual, it's erotic, and there is this in between of hard hits and smoothing of the skin. So this is another one that I would definitely recommend getting trained at. So you know what parts of the bodies are best to be hit by what. So because you can't be hitting everything
with the same force or the same item.
No, because it's over.
Certain parts of the body are way more sensitive than others.
Yes, definitely. And then of course you always have your agreements of what are no touch zones or not okay to be spanked or whatever. And so a very common one that you will definitely see in erotica and pornography is consensual non-consent, which formerly used to be called something else, but we will not be saying that phrase here on our show.
RPay.
Yes.
Use the pig Latin. Ape ray.
Yes.
Fantasy.
Yes. So this requires the act of, you know, the struggle. This requires, you know, essentially being taken by force, but this is something that y'all have discussed and you know what the boundaries and the limitations are. I also recommend for a lot of my people who are survivors of some type of trauma that you really make sure that you have healed sufficiently from that trauma so that you're not re-traumatizing yourself every time you do this. So
agreed.
Yeah.
The next one is gags, and this can be ball gags, silicone bits, anything that pretty much goes into your mouth and hinders your ability to communicate. And some of these can be used in breath play as well.
That's what I was thinking. There's a slight difference, but yeah, man,
it's a lot of them.
Yeah, This is not an exhaustive list. Remember, guys.
I think we have like 3 or 4 more on this list, and then if there's any specific ones that y'all want to bring up.
I mean, no, because anything, it would be, at that point, it would be getting too specific.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is Praise King, not to be misinterpreted as praise dance. Those are different things, okay? So this is a praise kink. It's like, you are so beautiful when you do this, or you take this so well, or you do these things so great. So it's for my people who like words of affirmation, this may be up your alley. It ain't up my alley because my words of affirmation don't work like that. Stop talking to me, okay? I don't like it. So this is I think I see this a lot in movies when certain types of sex scenes come up, and like, oh, you did that so well, or whose is it? It's yours.
Yes. You see this in a lot of certain types of movies.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so funny. It's such a weird, this would not be.
It's not my thing.
Yeah, it's just so weird though. It seems so off, and like, how do you make that sound good?
It would have to really be in the moment of like you really talking to me, and like that level. It can't be this little
like
you're
rando.
So beautiful when you couldn't say that before why are you talking?
Yeah.
I've literally had this conversation with somebody. I'm like, if you don't shut up talking to me.
I really feel like you have had this conversation.
No, it's serious.
No, I know. When you said that, I was like, she's had this conversation with someone.
I was like,
Yes.
You are messing the mood up. How could you say that to me? Because do you want to be intimate with me or just yourself?
Because if that's the case, then we can make that happen too.
Have at it.
Yeah. And so, in this, everybody is different. But
True.
for me personally, this is not for me.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah. But one of the things that it does say, people who are unsure of themselves and who struggle with attachment issues, this is an extremely common one for that group of people. To me, it's like you telling me stuff I already know.
Yeah.
Because I'm highly competitive. So I'm just like, I already know this. I can hear you.
You didn't need to tell me.
Thank you, sir.
I'm good on that.
The next one is degradation kink, and we've talked about this a little bit when we were discussing our percentages, but a degradation kink can be considered the opposite of a praise kink, and so you are essentially tearing this person down. It's consensual. I'm going to keep saying that, but you are denigrating them, degrading them. You might spit on them. You might make them do all kind of things.
You should have seen. I don't. That look like I wish a mother would spit on me.
And I feel like that's a cultural thing because it's like we have been told our whole life you don't spit on people and you don't let nobody spit on you.
Man,
the backhand that will come towards your face.
Oh yeah,
and the get upness that you would have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, like this amount of strength that I would have after that moment would be astonishing.
I think that's too closely linked to recent traumas in society. I ain't gonna be able to do that one.
Yeah. No, because it seems what we've been taught, especially as Black people, is it's disrespectful,
right?
So in a general kind of sense, again, this is generalized, but in general, that would not be seen as something that would be a turn on because we've been taught that it's disrespectful.
Even when that minister did that example, I said, I'm not okay. I can't watch that. My mouth has started.
I heard about it. I couldn't watch it.
Real watery.
And I usually watch most Sundays, and this was a Sunday that I didn't watch, and I was like, I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah, because it was, I don't want to talk about it. But I'm not going to be down for that one. Yeah. But a lot of people are. And as long as you do it in a healthy manner and you do aftercare, like we'll talk about in a second, typically this is a completely okay one. No issues. The next one is blood play.
Oh. I'm sorry.
She said
she went somewhere else, y'all. Blood play is all about being aroused by the sight of blood. It could be your own. It can be someone else. It's bringing it to the surface. This goes in line with what I was talking about earlier with knife play. You have people that are well versed with that. It could be from a lashing, which that's not going on in my house, but knives, lashings, small pokes with sharp objects.
Yeah.
They are sterilized. You have a safe word. Also, it could be to biting and making the skin red and things like that. But that's a lot of training that needs to take place.
Because the human mouth is nasty.
It really is. It really is. And I've actually seen a live performance of knife play with blood play, and it was so like interesting. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was part of my training. So I don't personally want to do it, but I enjoyed like watching someone go through that, and you could see the care that the dominant provided his partner, and you could see like she was just like, he has me. I say, okay.
I'm telling you, some of the healthiest relationships, because the amount of conversation you have to have with somebody
and
to say that you can take this sharp object and lance my skin.
I think I wouldn't even be able to get, because I'd be, wait, it almost got me, man. What are you doing? You too close this time.
And that's the purpose. We already know you ain't gonna be able to do this. All they need to come up to you with is some eyelashes, and it's over.
No, I can no. You're not putting those on my eyes.
And I was like, that one is not happening for you.
Yeah, this one is more on the extreme end for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like I said, I would rather watch it. That's probably the voyeurist. in me,
I would be down.
I try to watch it, but I'll be like, oh, wait a minute.
I was like, hold on.
I think I'll jump every time.
It's like, because I don't know who's going to be listening. But yes. That. There are lots of things that just from some of the stuff that you said and some of the things that in the list that Dr. Jones-Hines sent and the ones that I found, there are a lot of things that seem interesting.
Yeah.
That like, but then when you think about it in practice, in reality, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would go. I don't know what that would feel like.
I would totally love to go to like the conferences and seminars and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean I want to be the one doing it or experiencing some of these things. But I would love to be like, oh, okay, that's how they do that. I can watch that again or whatever. But certain things, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like to go. I would be interested in going to the trainings because I think that would be safe. It'll still the knife throwing thing and be like, well, hey, that was too close to her head, sir. Don't do that no more.
They might start lower. They might just drag it across your back or something.
Yes,
you just
and do the scratch where the skin, the skin kind of flakes up.
It's the reverse body roll.
Right.
The next one is autoplushophilia or furries. And these are people who have a furry kink. And so that means involves dressing up in animal costumes and engaging in sexual play. Also, having stuffed animals all around you and actually becoming aroused by them. This is not the same thing as individuals that use them as a coping skill, coping tool. Like that's different.
Yeah. I knew a person, I know a lot of people that was a plushophile. They were not necessarily a furry, like wanting to dress up as. Now I have had a client, I have known a person that was into the furry end of that. That liked the dress up portion, but I have also known an individual that was more into the stuffed like the animals itself.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from this person about realistic versus cartoon / anime or self-created animals.
Yeah.
It was very
range.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
To learn from them.
Yeah. So the last one on this list that we're going to talk about is mummification. And this is similar to what the mummies went through in ancient Egypt in a sense. And essentially you are getting turned on by wrapping your partner or being wrapped in saran wrap or some type of restrictive material. Now with this also has that breath play. And so you really need to make sure you're paying attention to where you leave your air hose, because it's like if you didn't put the air hose with your pet and you came back and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
This same thing that can happen. Also not wrapping them too restrictively, because you can constrict the movement of the lungs. So this is another one of those where you do need to go get training.
Would necro fall under this category?
I think mummification will fall under necro, if that makes sense, because I think necro is a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And this would be more on the lighter end of necro.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to say the whole word because we will likely get flagged.
Yeah.
For saying that full word, but just type necro into Google and it'll tell you the rest.
It'll tell you a whole lot of rest.
Yes.
So out of y'all's research, what did y'all find like the most shocking, and what were you like, oh, maybe that's me or something I might try?
Well,
there was a whole
PG,
lot of
PG.
okay. I was like,
you don't have to go too far into it if you don't want to.
yeah,
but PG
like,
version.
try now. Hold on now.
well, I was going to say, because those are two different.
Yes.
The ones I would try and the ones I was like,
You surprised?
Yeah,
by?
and it can be. Yeah.
Surprised by.
I don't remember the name of it. I think the one it was. Hold on.
From mine, I don't know if there was anything that I was surprised by. Because I really do believe that if you can think of it, someone either has done it or is aroused by it. So I don't know if there was anything in particular that I was surprised by. Now some of the category names of what these things fall in, I was not always familiar with how what the name was that was associated with the behavior.
Yeah.
So if anything, that's more of what I learned. Like, oh, that's what that's called. I knew what the action was, but I didn't know it had this term associated with. And the things that I would try, I'm not gonna say.
Okay, that's all right.
I'm not gonna say. I'll tell
Many
y'all.
things.
I was like, I'll tell y'all off off air. But yeah, no, there's because there was a lot of things in here that I'm like, been there, done that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I won't say the ones I'll try. Y'all need to know that. But the one I was surprised by was the sun one.
Oh, yes.
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 Becoming aroused by the rays of sun. I can't remember the actual name.
It starts with an A.
Let me
Yeah, that one was, yes. Thank you, Dr. Jones Hines. That one surprised me. I was like, wait, people get aroused by the sun? Like, I didn't even know that.
I cannot pronounce
Hold on,
it.
let me go up to it. I got it open. Soon as I find it. Actorasti. Arousal by the rays of the sun, which is why many people enjoy sex outside.
Now that makes sense. But being aroused by the sun,
the rays hitting you.
Yeah, now that is what was
shocked me.
Yeah, I didn't realize. But again, if you can think it,
yes,
it is.
There's a person somewhere, either publicly or privately, or secretly, is into it.
Yeah. I think the only other one, there's not really anything at this point in my career that surprises me. But I think one that I was reminded of that's like, oh, I do want to get like more training on that or go to a conference on it was the electro. Because with the electric wands and different things like that, like, that's straight up out the 80s, 10s and all that kind of stuff. But I think that would be an interesting one to, for me to get more training on, because we talked about it when I went through my initial sex therapy training, but because there's so many other ones that are so much more common, we didn't really spend a lot of time on it. So I was like, ooh, I remember that one. Let me, pull out my notes and go further into that.
Yeah. If I was going to get training, since that's a slightly different question, and that's more occupationally based.
Yeah.
I definitely would want to dive in and get more training on the more extreme ends of BDSM.
Okay.
And how they create safety with one another in the extremity of it.
Yeah.
Because it's just fascinating to me that you can get to that extreme, but it's still so safe.
Yeah. The lifestyle is vast.
Yeah. I think I would want to get training on how to teach people how to be safe. Like how to tie the knots, how to, well, not really knife throwing, because I don't want to do that one, but, I would want to train people on how to be safe, since we have couples and they have all different types of problems in different areas, sex being one. So I would, if that's what they're into, I would like to be able to train them on how to be safe, and they can go somewhere else and learn what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay. The safety master. Pun intended. So switching to, how to get into this area and, figure out your kinks. One of the main ways that I definitely recommend as far as getting started is to go ahead and take these tests that we talked about earlier. And of course, we'll have them linked in the description boxes on all of the social medias and things like that. But I think that will give you an inclination into what your interests are, or if you feel like you are an extremely kinky person, you might find out that you're actually not very kinky, or vice versa, so I think that would help. The next thing would be to get educated and trained. So I feel like that is an element in most communities that gets bypassed. Like the true people who are really in this, they are getting trained. They may not go to a mistress or a master or a dominatrix or dom or whatever to get all their training, but they're going to some type of sexual professional and getting that information. It could be like when my clients come to me as a sex therapist, they could go see Goody Howard. She's a sexologist here in Dallas, Fort Worth area, and she does virtual trainings on different things as far as intimacy. Or like I like to do is I utilize this couple, the woman's name is Jet Setting Jasmine, and her partner, his name is King Noir, and they actually put on full-fledged kink and fetish lifestyle trainings where you can actually get trained. And I've sent friends to them, I've sent clients to them, and they are they're very thorough, they're very sex positive, and all of their information will definitely be linked. But I think it's important to get educated and trained. And if you're not quite ready for the face-to-face, there is this website called Beducated, and that's BEDUCATED.com. And it is a online virtual like CEU where you can go and just learn about a multitude of things. And I think that is a great tool to have.
Yeah, sounds good.
Also, it's important to have consent and check throughout the process. This is what I was talking about last session, when individuals don't want to check in with the partner. Right. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. You want to
That's more common than people think.
Yeah, you should be, and the check doesn't have to be this huge verbal, but it can be something like, how are you? And that is this okay? And if you're in a whole dominant submissive in me, like, sir, permission to speak. Right. It'll be whatever it needs to be or whatever. But that consent and checking in throughout is extremely important. And then the final part is the aftercare. And I recommend aftercare even for people who solely practice vanilla sex, because it's extremely important to come down properly off of your endorphins if it was done correctly, because there should be some endorphins pumping through your body. And when you participate in a kink, it can be extremely intense. You have a flooding of endorphins, when you do kinks, you do have a more likelihood to get to a bliss state, and you really don't know what's going on, what's happening, which is why it's so important to trust in your partners. And then there is a drop off. And sometimes if you are not being properly taken care of, that drop off can actually lead you into full-fledged shock.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that your aftercare is catering to you and your needs. That may be cuddling with your partner because that keeps the endorphins coming down slowly. It may be ingesting nourishment, food, and water. If you've had an intense play, you done burn some calories and stuff. You know, bringing your emotions back down to a neutral place from being super high. That could be watching a show, talking, taking a shower, because you remember all of these things are sensory.
And take
in
care
some
of
type
your
of way.
Injuries if there have been any injuries.
Yes, and whoever inflicted them is the one supposed to be doing that. FYI, you know, I'm just
Which
saying.
is still intimate.
Yes, very, very. And then discuss what worked and what didn't work.
I think that's the thing that most people miss.
Yeah.
What worked and what didn't work.
And then it's especially depending on which kind of kink you've engaged in, you want to use words of affirmation and things like that, so that if you were degrading your partner, you are able to uplift them again.
Because you have to get back to whatever the normal is for your relationship. Now, there are some kinks in individuals that do 24/7 play. And so that's different, you know, versus someone who just does it during intimate times or a specific part of the day. But you do need to say, okay, I'm no longer Mistress Nichelle, you know, I'm Nene.
Right.
You know, so you got to switch over to what that is. And eventually once y'all get it specified to y'all, you automatically know when you switch back over.
Yeah. Yeah. This goes back to knowing yourself, knowing your person.
And knowing what you need.
Yes.
I like it.
I like it too.
Oh, man.
Well, we definitely hope you all enjoyed this session like you all have expressed enjoying the others.
Yes.
So next week, we're doing Movie Mental Breakdown. We're going over the trilogy of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes.
So if you have not started watching them, start now.
Shout out to all the people who have been personally texting me talking about, hey, I started the movie, or I started number 2 or number 3. I appreciate y'all, but can y'all put it on the post on the social media? Because
the algorithms.
You know, yes, I get you. You might not want to put it on this one because you might not want people knowing your business. But after this month, put it on the posts. Okay?
The algorithms. Comment, like, share,
subscribe.
Y'all know the deal. Y'all hear it on every YouTube video y'all listen to, literally. So y'all already know what to do. Exactly. Anyway, so we always end off with a quote. And this one is brought to you by the illustrious Marilyn Monroe. We are all born sexual creatures, thank God. But it's a pity so many people despise and crush this natural gift.
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at The Recycled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.